All right. Hey there, Fletch from All Things Overlanding here with Cindy Pope. Welcome, Cindy. Good to have you
Hi.
as always. She's been on here before, so if you've listened to the podcast, if you've watched this on YouTube before, you may be familiar with Cindy, but she is super famous in the overlanding world for both Northology adventures, and then also she is the sort of the one in charge of the core event in September that I love so much. So thank you, Cindy, for being here today.
Thank you for having me on your show. It's always fun.
Yeah, of course. So today, what we're going to kind of talk about is we're gonna talk about our new rigs because Cindy has joined the Nissan family, or I guess rejoined because you had one before, right?
Yep, I sure did.
So she has rejoined the Nissan family, and she now has a Frontier, which she has some cool stuff to talk about, which we'll get into. And now I have a Frontier, so staying in the Nissan family, but talking about kind of how we're going to be differently and maybe similarly outfitting our rigs, and then kind of talking about upcoming stuff that's coming up. So if you want to hear more about that, stay tuned. All Things Overlanding is brought to you by some fantastic companies. You should definitely check out the description and click through their links to see all the awesome stuff they offer. Companies like Red Arc for all your overlanding power management needs. Last US Bag, tons of amazing quality overlanding bags. Rugged Bound Supply Company, rooftop tents, awnings, roof racks, and more. The More Expo 2022, get your tickets below. And Northology Overland, guided overlanding trips and a free overlanding magazine. All right, guys. So as you heard in the intro, I have Cindy Pope with me today from Northology Adventures and Core. We are going to be talking about our Frontiers. So Cindy, tell us about the Frontier that you picked up. Like, what year is it? Mileage? I think it's Pro 4X, right?
It is a Pro 4X. I believe the color is Glacier. I like
Yeah.
the snow, so that's cool. It's a 2019,
Nice.
and when we bought it, it had 16,000 miles on it.
Ooh, that's newer than new. That's low mileage on those motors. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then it was bone stock, wasn't it, when you got it?
Yeah, totally. It was like, I don't know what the exact package is, but it has like the sunroof and the leather seats and the
Nice.
backup camera. It
Fancy.
has a lot of really cool things, but yeah, it's completely stock.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. And what made you, so you had the big full-size four-wheel drive, quickly converted Ford van before, like, and I know that there were some concerns about it was an older vehicle with higher mileage, right? But like, what made you switch from, like, because van to truck is a big switch, right? And you came from Jeeps before that with solid axles. So like, you got IFS now, you got a truck instead of an SUV or a van. Like, what was your thought process when you went through that, and what made you sort of make that switch?
Oh, well, yeah, it's a long story. And by the way, the van is still for sale if anybody wants to inquire about
Yeah,
that. But
and it's
um,
awesome.
yeah, we had a Nissan Frontier.
Mhm.
It was a 2006, and it had the strawberry milkshake of death. We did have
Oh
to
no.
replace on that. Um, but we got the van because camping in the Jeep with the husband and the dogs wasn't feasible.
Yeah.
And so we went to the van, and really the only thing we could really afford was older and higher mileage. And it works out. It's awesome. I love the van life, but we have some extensive travel coming up, cross country travel, and I
Yeah.
really wanted something more late, newer,
Yeah.
basically newer. And then so I just kept thinking back to that Nissan we had. My brother still drives it.
Wow.
I drove it to Maryland and to the Outer Banks of North Carolina.
Nice.
And we've gone all over the Midwest in it when we had it. And Tundras and Tacomas are a little more expensive when you're looking at trucks. And it just made sense. We were familiar with it. We really liked ours, and this one was reasonable.
Yeah.
And I think that that's going to work for us.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I mean, and I've said that for a while now, but like, they're so underrated, I think, and like when you look at like a Tacoma, I mean, for a 2019 Tacoma with 16,000 miles, I mean, I don't know what you paid for the Frontier, and you don't have to say here, but like, I bet you that a Tacoma was at least 8 to 10 grand more. I bet you
Yeah,
money, easily.
yeah, Yeah.
So it's
I'm sorry, I couldn't do the Toyota, the taco thing.
yeah.
I
They're not, I mean, they're great trucks. I don't have anything against them. I just really have a hard time. Like when you look at longevity, like again, this Nissan with 16,000 miles, even with the miles you guys put on it, will last you for 10 years pretty easily, probably with pretty minimal maintenance, I would say. I mean, my Frontier has 212,000 miles on it. And aside from the timing chain guides getting misdone previously and kind of fouling out some stuff, I mean, it's still like transmission wise, it runs fine. Like it feels fine before it, the timing chain stuff went, it felt okay, and now it feels great now that everything's fixed. So I think you'll get a lot of mileage out of that, if you will, both,
I
literal
think so too. We're looking forward to it. Like I said, I mean, it's not a fancy truck.
yeah.
It's pretty, it looks the same inside as the 2006 does.
It is the same. Yep. I think the
But
dash is slightly different.
yeah, it looks the same on the outside too.
Yeah, they're the same.
But yeah, but like you said, it's a great value. It's an underrated truck.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, to tell you the truth, though, when the Xterra first came out, I wanted one so bad.
Very
I
cool.
just was in love. And I think the thing that got me was one of the models had like a washout interior. Like it was, it
Yeah.
had a plug. And yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
you can hose this thing out? Yeah, heck yeah.
Yeah.
But
They were super quirky, but they're super cool. I will say, coming from my Xterra to the Frontier, it's kind of weird for me. Like I'm having trouble adjusting to the bed because it's all open. Like it was so nice to just have my drawer system in the back of the Xterra and to know that I could just close it and everything's secure and it's waterproof and I don't have to mess with it. And with the way that the hatch opened in the back, like I was basically rainproof without an awning anyways back there. So I could open that,
yeah,
pull my slide out, cook, get to my fridge. I would just leave my hatch open all night long most of the time when I was camping places, and it would just keep all my stuff covered. But I could still access my fridge to get a beer or, cook and
yeah.
do stuff back there, which was nice. But so I'm taking some time to adjust to the truck idea. I'm not sure exactly. Like I feel like I should get a shell or something, but they're so expensive. And then you got to get the right one that will hold all the weight, and it's just a whole thing. And then I'm like, do I just sleep in the bed, or and I have a deck system, so that's not even really possible the way it currently sits. So I don't know.
I feel your pain, man. I feel it. Going from a Jeep to a van to the truck. I mean, all of my camping stuff right now is sitting in our kitchen. It's just all
Yeah,
piled up there because we don't have a place for it right now.
yeah,
And the truck is getting bumpers done by, and I got a shout out here to Dennis
yeah,
Canine with Canine, Konyn Custom Fabrication in Marinette, Wisconsin. But when we get it back, that's where the whole process begins. You've got this truck, you've got your list of things you want to do to it mechanically to make it, eat better on the trail and
yeah,
whatnot. But then you also have that list of, how do I live in this for days or weeks or months at a time?
yeah. Yeah, I'm really excited to see how you build it because you guys go on a lot more long trips than I do. So I'm curious to see what you guys do. Are you thinking of keeping it an open bed or like going rack, and like what is your plan for like sleeping arrangements?
I would really, really like to get a wedge camper.
Ooh, yeah. I like that.
I see the Go Fast campers. They look nice. They
Yeah.
have shorter production times than most of the other ones.
Yeah.
There aren't a whole lot that do the 5 foot or do the Frontier.
Mhm.
There's some that just only do like the Tundra, the Tacoma, and whatnot. Ford.
Yeah.
But yeah, wouldn't that be cool to have your topper, quote
Yeah.
unquote, that you could crawl up into the top with a
Yeah.
pop-up tent?
Yep.
Yeah, I'd really like one of those, but at the moment, we're going to be tent camping until
Yeah.
we find the solution.
Gotcha. Yeah. How much are those things? They're expensive, but I don't know how much they are.
I
Five or
think they
six
start
grand.
around 8 grand.
Ooh, okay.
8.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I
and
was
that's
far.
the thing. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, do you buy a wedge camper specifically for your model truck that
Yeah.
you could only sell to somebody else that has a Nissan Frontier and wants a wedge camper?
Yeah.
Or do you get a trailer.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good consideration too, because like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like, I feel like a lot of the stuff you do is pretty passable. Like, you don't do like, you're not looking to go to Moab and like rock climb, right? Like, you're doing like UP trails and stuff where like having a good like rock and roll hitch or whatever, and like a nice little teardrop would probably do just fine behind that truck.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not going to take the truck up the escalator with a trailer.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, a
Um,
trailer would be cool. I keep looking at, I mean, we all know TC teardrops. Like, I was watching Matt Fry's video the other day, and I was just, the whole time I'm just like, I bet I could really easily get my wife to go if I had like a TC teardrop. She'd go in a heartbeat.
excuse me. Yeah, well, the fun thing about that is, and also the idea of a wedge camper where you crawl in in the bed of your truck, and you can stand up in the bed of your truck, and you can crawl up into your bed. And then in the morning, when you're still in your pajamas and you don't want to get out and go anywhere, or it's raining, you crawl back down in the bed of your truck.
Yep.
And, you might have your little potty in there, or you can make your coffee without leaving the truck.
Yeah.
That is really appealing. But, also the ability to have a base camp and a trailer is nice too. And those Nissans, they can haul a lot of weight or tow. They're very, very capable when they tow.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's going to be a hard decision. I am renting a trailer from a gal who's starting up a business here in Wisconsin where you can rent rooftop tents and trailers and stuff. So we're going to try out the TC, but I think you're right. Your wife, and she might like those amenities. And
well, and like core, like, God, that would be so perfect, wouldn't it? Like, just haul that thing on the highway, piece of cake, drag it behind you, get there, set up your little teardrop, and just leave it. And then like you could go out and hit whatever trails you want. Like, I will say, I just went to Kentucky about a month ago, and we had some pretty gnarly trails. Like, the closest I've ever been to flopping a vehicle. I mean, I literally was like, my hand was on the driver's side door and I was looking out the passenger side windshield. I was so far over, and I hit a point where it basically, there was a tree to the right, so you could only go so far right. And I put my tire on that tree, and then it dipped to the left. But with that rooftop tent, so with my big rooftop tent, my rack, all my stuff in the back, I mean, my front tire dipped down into that thing, and the back started to slide, and the whole truck like settled and went like this, and then came back. And I mean, I was like this, and I was so afraid of flopping the truck that I couldn't even think to, because I wanted to get on the radio, because the other two guys I was with were up around a bend in front of me, and I wanted to be like, come back and take a picture of this. But I was so afraid that if I even like took a breath that I was going to flop it, that I just held onto the door, and I like eased into it until my front tire came up a little bit, and you felt the truck settle back down, and I was like, oh, thank God. And then I pulled out of it, and then I radioed them afterwards, and I was like, where did you guys go? Because you just missed the most dramatic thing of the whole trip. But it really made me think about that weight up high, like I was just like, man, with all that bedding and tent and gas cans in the back and everything strapped to it in the rack, and it's just so much weight up high,
It's funny because I took a convoy up to the cliff mine, and we were filming us. I had somebody film us all come down this hill.
Yeah.
And you can just see the guys at the rooftop tent. It's the same vehicle. I mean, the suspension might be different, but it just feels, so it looked like, oh my God, that looks crazy. You were top heavy, Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't want to say I want to go away from a rooftop tent, but the base camp ability of a teardrop, the comfort of a teardrop, the storage of a teardrop, there are a lot of pros, as long as, my thing though, I think would be, I try and go to a lot of places. I don't base camp a lot. Like, that's kind of the opposite of most of my trips, except for core, is like, I go and I'll travel for 8 hours, 10 hours a day, and then we'll hit a new campsite. And then like when I went to West Virginia a couple of years ago, that's all we did. We hit a new site every day, and we were hitting hard trails for 8-10 hours a day. So then I was like, man, I'm glad I'm not dragging a trailer then. But
yeah, they're just, there are times when we will be, go every day.
Yeah.
And that will be
kind of, you have flexibility with it, right? Like, you could bring a ground tent and just take the truck.
Yeah.
So that's kind of,
that's true.
Yeah, so many options, with how to set these trucks up. So you mentioned a little bit about modifications to get it to dig more, eat more on the trail. What are your thoughts? So I know you've got bumpers in the works right now, which look amazing. What else are you thinking from a modification standpoint? Because I'm curious about that. Because I know my truck's modifications, but I don't know what you're going to do.
Well, the other thing that Dennis is doing are some rock sliders.
Nice.
They're so cool, low profile, you wouldn't even notice it.
Nice.
But they tuck up really nice and will protect it. And then besides the front and rear bumper, I think I got to think about maybe some suspension upgrades. The Titan swap is a fun goal to have.
Yeah.
And
I
it
will
looks
say after taking it on the trails, it's amazingly capable. And 35s make a huge difference on those trucks.
You're right, because just stock going out, what we've done, like on the one I have, the bumper, or I'm sorry, the hitch carrier and the plug for the
really low,
the trail lights and stuff.
Yeah.
I bent that bracket, just like I came down on something. I didn't even realize when I did it. I was in the parking lot later. I was like, what the hell, So clearance, yeah, I could tell that the guy in front of me with the Jeep with the big tires, he wasn't dragging his diff in the snow. I was. But, again, how much do I really need,
Right.
That'll be the question.
I mean, I think, with the Frontiers, and I'm not as familiar, but there are a ton of people that are. I mean, I know they're real similar to the Xterra. Like with the Xterra, I just did, like a 2.5-inch lift as coilovers, Niztec MK84 coilovers on the front, and then a longer shackle on the rear with some better shocks and some new leaf springs. And I mean, that made a huge difference. That got me about 2.5 inches, and then I could fit 33s, which, I mean, you can fit them stock, but this really helped fit it with, less rubbing. I think 3 to 6, there are some crazy guys that have like 6-inch lifts on those things and body lifts and all kinds of things, which I don't know if all that's necessary, but I mean, you could get a 2.5-inch lift without changing any like steering geometry or having any drive shaft problems or anything like that, really pretty affordably too. Like you could probably just go and pay full price for like a kit from like a Niztec or an All Dogs, off-road and be $1,000-$1,500 into a full suspension.
And and that's, I never went really large with the Jeep. I mean, the van had 4 inches of lift, and that was on 33s, and I could barely, like, I had to like climb up in it, and then when you get out, you're like, it's like a long way down. But with the Jeep I had, it was a 2.5-inch lift on 35s, and I thought that was like the perfect recipe for a mildly modified Jeep that you could still drive on the highway and not, this 4 and 6-inch lift stuff is not good for long distances, and that's what we're going to be doing a lot of. So whatever it will be modest.
Well, that's the beautiful thing is, again, for like a 2.5-inch lift, I think that'll get you everything that you need, and you could easily fit 33s with no rubbing and very minimal modification, and then be fine. I mean, again, with mine, so mine's Titan swapped up front and then just has 2-inch spacers on the rear, and it's still not nearly as wide in the rear as it is on the front. But But then what I need to do, and probably, hopefully, maybe, depending on how well the truck runs in a few years, if it's still running strong, and I feel like putting more money into it, I may just get a Titan rear axle and just swap that, and then I'll be fully Titan swapped. But I took it on some really tough trails in Kentucky a month ago, and it did great. It did perfect. And with the e-locker and stuff, it was, the 35s. But here's the thing is the guy had to do a ton of cutting. So the previous owner did a ton of cutting. Mine is super modified to fit those 35s because I'm on like a 2.5-inch lift with 35s and the Titan swap. So those tires are sticking out 6 inches outside of my fenders.
Right.
But I mean, I'll put a picture up here or something of it like a little bit flexed out, and you'll see like that you had to cut a bunch for that. But like 33s, again, I think you'd be fine with non-Titan swap because the Titan swap it's not super expensive, but God, I can't remember off the top of my head, at least a few $1,000s. And then that's doing all the labor.
Right.
So,
I'm not going to do any labor myself.
So call it $5,000 to $6,000 easy for a Titan swap, So it's nice. I like the bigger brakes. I like the beefier components. I like the wider, track. It looks cool, but I bought it. That's part of the reason why I just bought the truck built, because I didn't want to deal with it. I wanted a Titan swap truck, but I just wanted to buy one that was that way. So I don't blame you.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, cool. I'm excited to see how you end up modifying that. I think, just some better tires will help you a lot,
Yeah.
and slightly bigger will give you more clearance. And the bumpers too are going to help you a bunch. Like,
Yeah, Dennis sent me a picture of how tall that rear hitch receiver that he took off is too.
yeah,
And that he took 145 pounds out by removing the hitch receiver.
yeah,
And yeah, it just looks so much clearance in the back. I think that's going to be super, super cool. And then in the front too, that front of that Frontier, it looks nice. I
it's
like
all
the way
cladding.
the style is awesome. But that plastic, that's going to be the first thing to get ripped off in the front.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
going to crack that or mess it up. So that had to go all below that one line gone,
yeah, yep, yep, yeah. It'll make a huge difference to your approach and departure angles for sure. So, again, you don't have to be in a monster truck, right? I think a couple inches of lift and 33s, and you're good. So
I think that's the way it'll go. Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see when we're all together, like at core and stuff, like who has it easier. You might actually do better than me. I don't know. Sometimes the bigger, nastier trucks are just a pain in the butt. There's a lot of downsides. So
Yeah, that is true. I'm just super excited about having a reliable vehicle
yeah,
and I'm really super excited about the possibility of the wedge camper. I
yeah.
know like Harker Outdoors is going to be at more,
Hmm.
but they don't make it for the Frontier.
Yeah, because it's dead, basically. I mean, the 2022 is alive, but we'll see how that goes, how long that lasts. I don't know. I mean, I think they're selling pretty well, so I hope that that's a good sign to Nissan where they keep going. And they may be getting rid of the Titan, I heard. So if they do that, then they got to keep the Frontier. Well, cool. Well, I can't wait to see what you end up with. And then maybe someday when you want to sell it like super cheap used to someone, a guy
Hey,
for the Frontier.
right. I wanted to ask you though, and I don't know, maybe you have talked about this before, but what do you think of the upgraded or the new Frontier, the design and the way it looks
I'm
aesthetically?
I'm a fanboy, so I love it. I think it's
Okay.
awesome. I mean, there are some things that aren't perfect. Everybody that says it looks like a Tacoma, I think all trucks nowadays look the same. I think it's uniquely Nissan though. I mean, that's honestly to your point of like the newer vehicle versus an older one. I mean, again, mine's an '08 with 212,000 miles. I'm just going to beat on it for a few years and not feel bad about it because it's so old and so high mileage. And if I can get 3 to 5 years out of it, I'll feel really good. But then I think I probably will buy like a 2023, like maybe not the first year, but the same body style, but maybe like about what you did, like 2 or 3 years old with like 20 to 50,000 miles on it or something. And that'll be my next, heavy duty off-roader truck.
Sure,
Probably be
sure,
something like
sure.
that. So that's my thought is might be the next truck in a few years. So we'll see. Eyebrow raise for those on the podcast, eyebrow raises. Cool. So we've talked about vehicle selection. We've talked about modifications a little bit. Anything else you want to touch on that stuff? Or are you good? Like
I'm
truck?
good. I'm good. I just any wedge camper manufacturers out there that need to need to sponsor somebody.
Yeah.
Pointing at me,
Call
no.
Fletch. No, I'm just kidding. Call Cindy. I already have a rack and a rooftop tent. I'm set. I'm good.
Yeah. Good.
So although I could make a lot of money selling all that stuff, a rack and my deck system and all. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's true. No, but for the rest of the truck, I think, we will do some sort of camper or something on the back. It has to be ultralight. But we will have like the shower and we've got the refrigerator and,
Nice.
just deck it out for, just
Yeah.
long range travel. And I'm excited to get started on that. It can't be spring soon enough. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
All right. So we've talked about our rigs. We've talked about our modifications. I know, Cindy, that you have a few events coming up this year, like a bunch of really cool new ones. And then, of course, Core in September, which I love talking about. So you want to tell everybody about the events that you've got coming up?
I would love to. Well, first of all, Core ticket sales happen. Tickets go on sale March 1st. And the link for the tickets will be on the website, KeweenawOverlandAdventureRetreat.com. Jason, would you put that in the description?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome.
We'll do it.
Um, so, we could talk about that all day, but I'll talk about the other new exciting things we have coming up. I have a little list here. And of course, more Expo.
Yeah,
You're going to be
I'll be
there.
there. Yep, right out
We'll be
front.
there, right out front in the storytellers.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah. So there's
Assuming that the Frontier makes it, I will be there.
right. Well, you can maybe I'll come get you in my Frontier.
You can tell me.
Yeah, Chris has got this big section out front for the what he calls the storytellers, the influencers, the YouTubers, the content creators. And thank you, Chris, for doing that. That's really super cool. We're going to be out there with a bunch of really fun, awesome people. And then also we'll have information on our stuff in our magazine at the TC Teardrops booth.
Nice.
They were kind enough to kind of let us share a booth with us for a while. And so more coming up will be there. I am doing a women's off-road weekend in Wisconsin in May.
I'm not allowed. I get it.
You're not allowed to come to that. Although my dad's like, can I come? I'll put on a wig. But
he's allowed. Your dad's allowed.
Yeah. he lives like 5 minutes from where it's going to be too. The cool thing is we're going to have some gals there that like a nurse doing some wilderness first aid type of stuff. There's a gal that's going to help us learn about our rigs. We have a 3-time Rebel Rally participant coming to help with driver instruction training type of things like that. Awesome. And then of course, just getting together as gals in our own space. To learn in maybe the particular ways that are better for us, and having fun, obviously. And what else? We've got Big Iron Overland Rally on our schedule. That's in June, and also in June, an event we are doing. We just posted tickets for that this week. It's called the Summer Adventure Camp, and this is so cool, Jason. We teamed up with the guys at True North Outpost, the guys and gals.
Yeah.
They're going to offer their whitewater rafting trips, guided mountain biking, kayaking, canoeing, rock climbing. Basically, they're calling it, they wanted to do something together, and they're like, well, we want to do kind of like a mini core. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
I thought, it's still in the UP, but it's like 3.5 hours from Copper Harbor. So it's 3.5 hours closer.
Yeah.
So it takes me 5 hours to get there from Northern Illinois.
Not bad.
So it's going to be a lot easier. But it's going to be a big fun event. I think you're planning on maybe thinking about possibly considering that weekend.
It sounds like a lot of physical activity. If there are like beer drinking events, I'm in for those. My mountain bike, like hiking, mountain biking, I don't know. That sounds like a lot of work, but.
Well, the cool thing about this event is we did a ticket called the Relaxment Package.
Ooh.
And I was kind of inspired by, shout out to Jeremy at New Holland. He made up the word called relaxment, which I don't believe is a word.
It's whatever Jeremy says becomes a word, I think.
So. Yeah, well, maybe this is. So you can come. You can come to camp.
Yeah.
You'll get a wristband for the raffles. You'll get a swag bag. You'll get a T-shirt. You'll obviously be at camp where the food vendors and the beer guys are. Yeah. You can go do whatever you want or nothing at all. And fun thing about it is the hiking and the off-road trail rides are just happen. They're not a ticketed thing. They're free. So you could just hop on a ride with someone and we'll go out and have fun. Yeah. And you don't have to exert yourself unless you're doing the 12-ounce curls.
Yeah, I'm very good at those. My endurance for 12-ounce curls is very strong.
So yeah. And then the only big thing that we do have something big that's happening this fall after core, and it's not going to be anywhere near core. Okay. And that's all I'm going to say about it at this point.
I feel like I've heard
is that
something about this, but
there's something brewing. So
Interesting. Is it around, just out of curiosity, Rendezvous in the Ozarks time or slightly different time? Not overlapping?
it's not at the same weekend.
Okay. I don't know if I can
and
make Rendezvous in the Ozarks, but I've always wanted to go to that event and I've never made it. And I feel like I should, but it's so close to core. That's part of my problem, is the wife and work gets a little cranky when I'm gone for like half a week, multiple weeks in a row.
and then yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. The more I can get the wife out, maybe the more she'll like it, and then maybe she'll just start coming with me, and then it'll get better. So
Kind of like a Stockholm syndrome thing.
yeah, she's held hostage, and maybe she'll like me more if she's held hostage by me. Yeah,
That's how I feel. That's how I feel about beer.
Yeah.
Like, just drink it and you'll end up enjoying it. Well, I don't want to have to drink something that I have to like because I'm, supposed to.
Yeah. Don't feel peer pressure. You drink what you want to drink, or don't drink. You don't have to drink.
Right.
Well, great. Well, thanks again, Cindy, for being on tonight. And, like I said, everybody, in the description below will be links to all this stuff. So definitely go check it out. Subscribe to the magazine. Check out the events on Northology. Check out the core website on March 1st at 6 a.m. Get your tickets, because last year they went in like 2 days, right? So, they're getting how much? 25 hours?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want tickets, you got to get there first thing. I mean, I remember sitting there. I think I woke up at 7 and I was like, I ran downstairs to my computer like Christmas morning and was like, get my tickets. So
one cool thing I didn't mention, and I know we're saying goodbye. This is like the Midwestern goodbye,
Oh.
But we will have this year, we will be selling day passes. So if you want to go camp somewhere else and come and hang out, that's how we can kind of increase our community and our capacity there. So
nice. Very cool. Well, yeah, if you can't get the tickets, then maybe you can do a day pass. So that's awesome. Cool. All right. Well, thank you again, Cindy. And thanks everybody for watching and listening, and check out the links in the description below for more info.